Hello and welcome to a brand new Short Chute Show in a brand new year. Now, if you're new to the podcast, welcome. We'll be covering absolutely everything in the world of triathlon. And we're doing it in a way that I would probably describe as unique, because there's some unique humans on this podcast. And there's plenty of news at the moment in the world of triathlon, and not all of it is good. If you're already a Short Chute Show fan, well, this is a level up. Things have changed, but new segments, new arguments, same excellent crew though on this episode, both four-time world champions, both respected and admired in the triathlon world, and both not shy of a few things to say. Chris McCormack and Tim Don join us. Macca, I'll start with you. Because you have just finished the London Marathon, I want to know if you're okay, mate.
I'm hanging in there. It's been a long time between drinks. It was 10 years since I last pinned a number on, but what an amazing event. I was talking to Tim when we got on the show earlier, and just an incredible race to be a part of. I've watched it for many, many years. I watched Steve Monaghetti, the great Australian, run it in 1989 and always swore I'd do it. And finally, in 2023, I got out the streets of London, and what a race to be a part of. Remarkable event. And
you ran a 3:20, my friend. That is not slow, so congratulations. And I think you're pretty limited training, no?
Yeah, I enjoyed it. It's the first time I said to myself, I'm not going to, every other marathon I've ever done when I was racing was very, very uncomfortable. So this time I was running with a group of friends, and I sort of got through 30 kilometres, and it was the best I'd ever felt. So I was on 3:30 pace with them until they fell apart, and then sort of kicked down the last part of the run. And I think I pushed them to push the front guys, Kelvin, to a world record almost. He was an hour 20. Right.
Yeah. Well, he knew that you were behind him, though. You cast a very large shadow these days, and it was only 10, 15 Ks up the road. What about you, TD? How are you? What's been happening?
Not much. I'm good. Just waiting for spring to start here. We've still got the crazy weather in the UK. But yeah, I'm training for my own marathon. Got 4.5 weeks to go. So, up in Edinburgh with MD and Annie. We're going at it up there. So not quite London, but maybe next year.
Wow. Super League Triathlon CEO Michael Dolst up against Annie Emerson, who is in good shape. Like, she's been running 100 Ks a week nearly, no?
She was, but she's gone off the radar at the moment. So I hope she's not injured. Fingers crossed, Annie. But yeah, no, she's been putting in some big miles. All the arena games, she was going out for 90-minute, 1 hour 45 runs. She was, follow her on Strava. She was putting all her sessions on. So yeah, she was really, really gunning for it.
Could be mind games, Tim. She's dropped off Strava so that you don't know what she's doing training-wise.
I think she's going for a British age group record as well. So, but it's official now.
Yes, it is unofficially until this exact moment. Well, I haven't seen any photos of her and Collin Chartier together, so I think it's going to be okay. She hasn't dropped off the radar for anything worse than that. That'll be a part of our new segment, I think. Well, we cannot get past it. But right now, let's get straight into it with this one. Yes, that's right. It's the headlines. This is the segment where we asked our guests, our esteemed guests, to deliver their biggest headline from the last month in the triathlon world. And we're going to start with Timothy Don, the man with two first names. What is your headline for the last month of Tri?
All about the data, not about the feeling. We train with data, we race with data. We don't race and train with feeling. And it's the same when it comes to the arena games. We're going to be talking about the treadmills and the data. There's so much Swift data out there. We're going to be talking about the final, that number 7 treadmill. The data does not lie. We have all the data has been compiled. Janet Bragmeyer, she ran a 3:14 and a 3:13. They were 2 of the top 8 runs she has ever done in Arena Games history. She was not running slow. She left the gel in her shoe. Her swim was slightly off. Her transition was off. She had a bad day in the office. That was it. The data does not lie. And it was the same treadmill for Chase. We don't know exactly what he was capable of because he gave up. I mean, he ran a 3:01, which was, 10 to 12 seconds slower than he would have wanted. But within the first 300 meters, you could see. So his data is insubmissible. And then the second run, well, he'd done that 200 butterfly. I mean, talk about giving up before it started. So again, we couldn't really use that data because it was insubmissible. But yeah, the data doesn't lie. The treadmills are sound. We have done in the morning we've done multiple tests before and after the race with elite runners who have and we've compiled all that data with Leeds Beckett University.
Yeah, so I mean, basically, the point it comes down to, if someone has an opinion that it's not correct, and someone else has an opinion that it is, I mean, all we can do is fall back on the data, and the data didn't have any anomalies in it, I suppose. That's not to say that Chase doesn't have a case, I mean, or that he didn't feel like it wasn't right, but you know, where else can you go, Macca, I suppose?
Well, you can't, as Tim's made clear, data doesn't lie. And when you look at his heart rate, when you look at the output he's done, we couldn't get that second race look because, as you said, he didn't dig in. But the proof's in the pudding. You can't, when you walk into an event like that and you're already telling yourself there's something wrong with the machine, then you're putting yourself against the game. He should have gone all in, attacked that event, and then said, hey, look at that, because man, there's nothing wrong with those machines. We know it for a fact. And if this is going to be a continuous head game, then someone from my generation would have fed that. Oh, you're on treadmill number 6. You're gone. Like that's it'll become part of the play, right? It's ridiculous. You're either a pro athlete or you're not.
I mean, he's such an integral part though of Super League. He wouldn't be on my list of people who you'd expect to, you know, not try. Or, you know, if you didn't think that. For no reason, and long may it continue that Chase is part of Super League Triathlon, because we're kind of almost grown up together in some ways. He's one of those guys, so you know, I mean, hopefully we can just move on and move up.
There's no denying he's a great athlete. He's a lovely guy. It's just how you handle certain situations, and he handled that one wrong. You know, he'll move on from it, I believe.
Tim, anything else?
Yeah, it's just the first time he's been in a position where he's been one of the names we're talking. Normally he looks up to the Hayden Wild, Alex Yee, Maddie Hauser.
Yeah.
But, you know, he was in their shoes. And the first time you're in it, you do get a bit, what, how do I act? You just act the same. You don't change. How you've acted before has got you there. So you carry on. And, yeah, I think, I mean, he's a great racer. He's a lovely person. You know, I want to see him bounce back. You know, with the WTSs, and then at the end of year, hit London hard, come back with a vengeance, and never give up. You never know what can happen. You know, we've seen it in long races and short races where things haven't gone your way, and you can still come out on top. But you always give best effort till the finish line. Well,
those Brugmeier numbers are really, really interesting. So, you know, that tells a story in its own. Macca, we'll go to your headline, and of course, it is about our dear friend of the show, Collin Chartier. And what's your headline for Collin, mate?
Mine was, come on, Collin. Seriously, it was. I think it's the news of the week. I think everyone in the triathlon community was taken back. I was brought to the attention through Ben Hoffman's post on Instagram. I was like, oh, what's going on here? Literally just posted it. Ben Hoffman put a pretty heartfelt call out to what had happened. He felt very cheated, as he should. And, you know, Collin Chartier, for those that don't know, went positive for EPO and through a test through Ironman, and came clean and said, sorry. I just kept cueing that Tracy Chapman song. I'm sorry is all that you can say. Because it was, look, you can say sorry as much as you like, but it was quite heavy. You made a decision, and you took. Now the question mark sits around everything you've ever done, but that decision to cheat is just within sport. It's just within anything. It's just not right, and I think it's created a lot of uproar. And you know, that was it. Come on, Collin, because I was thinking, I was looking at this athlete. You know, I thought we saw his performance at the PTO. His run there was amazing. That PTO US Open, he'd won that Ironman Mont Blanc against Josh Amberger. He was definitely an athlete on the rise, and he came sort of from nowhere. Not nowhere, but I was like, wow, this is an athlete that's potentially a big player in the future. He was training with Lionel Sanders and doing a lot of great stuff, and then bang, pisses positive, and it's game over. And that, I guess the question mark is, sometimes when a donkey becomes a racehorse, maybe you need to question it.
It seems ridiculous to me. I mean, that he would win. Okay, so he wins Ironman Mont Tremblant, as you say, over Josh, who should be pissed off. But he says he's clean then, and he says he's clean in Dallas. Maybe because he doesn't want to give back the $100,000 that he won. And then suddenly he has one bad result in Kona, hasn't raced since then, and decides then to do it. That can't be right. That seems to me to be insane. Like, you don't have good results and then one bad result. He's done it before that, surely. Tim, help me out.
You get to your top clean and then you go, you know what? I'm going to take some EPO. The thing that baffles me is I think he said he started taking it in November. And he said no one else was involved because he's coached by Gustav Iden's brother. He said no one else was involved. He bought it online, but he was in Europe, America, then back to Europe, and then back to America. He said he was taking it 3 times a week. How do you travel with EPO? Do you order it online and go, change of address? It's not going to my house in America. It's going to my house in Girona. Oh, now it's going to London because I'm there for a week. There's too many holes in his story. They said they did a deep dive when they were investigating him, but his coach found out an hour before we did. So I'm really confused. And everyone's angry, quite rightly, but now we need to turn that anger into intelligent questions to find out how and why, not the mental state, because that's he's hopefully dealing with that with his friends and family, but the kind of like the practicalities of how he did it. Because as you said, Will, it doesn't make sense. I mean, and if I was coaching an athlete and all of a sudden I went, bloody hell, I haven't changed anything, and all of a sudden they haven't been up to altitude, their training has just got better and better and better. Surely there's red flag. No way have you ever had an increase. Like, even when I've gone to altitude or done some heat prep work, I've never gone boom, like, and we're talking, he beat some world-class athletes. They weren't soft fields. I mean, San Long last year was on fire. Deetlef was on fire, what he did in Roth. And Chartier crossed the line. He did a great interview with Michael Johnson. And Michael Johnson is just like, and you see people crossing the line and they're falling over, absolutely dead. And he's just like, yeah, it felt good. The second half, I didn't even have a watch on. I just decided to push it and go for it. Yeah, and you can see Michael Johnson going, wow, this guy's a machine.
Wow. Of course it felt good. Of course it felt good. It felt very, very easy. And I agree, like, how do you come off your best season? Like, even in his statement, you come off your best season, he said, I was in a bad place, I didn't feel good. You've come off your best season, then you opt to take gear? It doesn't...
Anyway. There are more questions than answers around this, and I hope that people jump on the right bandwagon to get to the bottom of this.
Yeah, I mean, he can't be ordering it himself and nobody know what's going on. Because as you say, he was in Lionel's apartment for a while, and you saw the Lionel thing. Anyone who hasn't seen it, go on Instagram and you can see 8 minutes of Lionel getting very upset. And and fair enough, because everyone's painted with this brush now. Like, doesn't matter whether you're clean, dirty, if you just happen to hang out with him for a while, you're part of this melee and there's no way out of it. So I wish he'd have thought of that before he made that.
That's why it's come on, Collin. Come on, Collin. What do you
classic
think?
Collin.
The mess is ridiculous.
Yeah, so points of fingers and make some restitutions, like Ben Hoffman asked you to do. Like, don't just say I'm sorry and walk away. Like, there's plenty that you could do to turn this around. So anyway, Collin, come on, son, if you're listening, put down the needle and come on. Yeah, all right. Okay, so let's do it. My headline's a nice one, right? Because we've just gotten through 2 difficult topics. And my headline is Super Schoeman. And I say that because Henry Schoeman, and I've been close to I've been watching him for the last couple of years. He's had a totally shithouse time over the past few years for many reasons. He pulled out of Tokyo. If you remember, he was 4th out of the water in Tokyo. He led the bike at one point and he couldn't finish that run. He was, running on one leg and couldn't make it to the end. Then just before Super League season started, he had a crash and fractured his elbow the week before. That's not to take into account also the COVID situation in South Africa, where it was, that was the red flag country for a while there back in the time. He couldn't go anywhere. Lots of cost pressures for him, became a new dad, couldn't get anywhere for a long time. So then he comes back with the world champ title. And I don't think there was a dry eye in the house at Arena Games London, and we're very happy to see that. Macca, you've had a lot to do with him through Bahrain Victorious, etc., and Super League as well. You must have been happy to see it.
Really happy. Henry's a guy I really enjoy spending time with. He's a great athlete, and we've supported him for quite some time. And he's always said it's just been a series of bad luck. A lot of athletes say that, but anyone who's followed Henry, it really has. He is such a committed athlete, he's a committed father. He's in his bubble, he trains his butt off, and when he's on form, he's one of the best in the world. He's an Olympic bronze medalist, he's a Commonwealth Games gold medalist, he's a Super League star, he's won many of our races, he's won World Series races. So, and it was for me to see that progression, to see him stay committed to the journey, which can be very, very tough. We talk about it when you're looking retrospectively backwards. 2 years is nothing when you're talking about, but when you're living that and the disappointment of that day in, day out, it's a long period of time. And to stay true to his heart, true to the sport, true to himself, and come out the other side with a world title. You saw the elation. It doesn't lie. That wasn't fake. He was remarkable. I'm so happy for him, and I just hope he piggybacks now off that and starts getting back to where he knows he can be. And I think we all know where he can possibly be. And he's very, very pumped around racing, championship racing as well, and getting back into that Olympics.
What about you, TD? You were in the arena, so I mean, obviously, plenty of emotion there for him, and he's probably come close to. I mean, he's been plugging all sorts of stuff on Instagram and stuff, just trying to get cash in the door while he hasn't been racing. So it's nice to see him back doing what he loves.
No, I couldn't agree more with Macca, and he's really diligent with his preparation. I mean, he speaking to him after Canada and then Switzerland, Sursey, he was fine-tuning. He said, I need more power on the bike. I don't need to run quicker. Don't need to swim quicker. I need to work on my transitions. And to have that meticulous, get it out, when there's a world title up for grabs, he's the real deal. I mean, we saw the way he raced in Cozumel when Johnny collapsed and Alistair, it didn't phase him. He prepares well for certain races, and I'd be worried. Those boys have forgotten about him. The French quartet, the likes of Alex Yee, Hayden Wild, Maddie Hauser, some of the Americans, they've forgotten about him. And I think that's a dangerous thing, because he's more than a lead pack swimmer. He lets Vince sit on his feet, in any race as well. So I'm really excited to see it. And as Macca said, it's only 2 years. In his whole career, it's not that long. But when you're in that moment, oh man, I've been there. I've had niggles, injuries, illness, and small setbacks, and one thing leads to another, and it's so hard to not get down and beat yourself up. So he must have great mental resilience, but he's probably got a really tight-knit, good team around him. So I'm really excited to see him race, and then hopefully he will come back in London at the end of the year. Probably race for the Eagles, because that's the team everyone wants to race for. But no, I'm super chuffed for him. So yeah. Big Henry fan.
Who wouldn't want to wear the canary yellow of the Eagles? Hey, it's such a fetching colour, especially when you've got such a deep tan as you do, Tim.
It's an English tan.
Don't worry, spring's coming. All right, that wraps us up for the headlines, and it's time for something a little bit different. That's right, life is full of ups and downs, unless you're Macca, in which case it's just full of ups. I mean, I've seen his life. It's insane. Or if you're Collin Chartier, in which case it's just full of uppers, all uppers. So it's time for the stock market. Whose stocks are rising, whose stocks are falling, and this time we're going to start with Macca. You've got to pick someone or something whose stock is rising, and someone or something whose stock is falling, and you're going to tell us why. And you're going to let's start with a positive. Whose stock, Macca, is rising in your eyes at the moment?
I'm going to say Sam Laidlow's stock. It was already rising after last year's performance in Kona, but that came off the back. There was a lot of question marks, which was sort of was that a fluky performance? Because he hadn't really won a lot. He'd been on the front of a lot of races, but hadn't really done a lot. There was that whole rundown at that PTO event with Sam Long and Lionel in that showdown. And there was a lot of question marks around Sam Laidlow. And he always had that big swim, big bike. His Kona performance was remarkable. He's then taken his time. He's linked up with Ronnie Schiltnick as his agent. They've taken their time to find the great partners. He was in Hawaii last year with no sponsors, zero. And they were very, very selective of their partners, very selective of their racing. And he came out and picked that event in Gran Canaria and dominated it. He looked remarkable from front, straight out of the blocks, looked great. He stated his intentions before that. He was going to use this race as a stepping stone to the season. He's in great form and to be ready. And what he did there I thought was very, very impressive. I'm really happy to see that, because I think he brings a lot of character to the sport of triathlon. I love following his social media posts. They're a lot of fun. He's just a great, interesting guy, very, very young talent. And I just think he's an athlete on the rise, and he's building off the confidence of last year's performance.
100%. Can't argue with that. We're actually going to see some of his efforts on social media a little bit later on in the show. Let's move straight on to falling. We've kind of touched on this one already, and your falling stock is Chase.
Yeah, look, it's hard to say falling. I'd say it's stable or dropping without question. I just think the takeaway from me watching Chase in Arena Games was just, in my head, he quit, right? And for any pro athlete, you don't quit, right? It's just not part of the game. And I think, a stock that's slowly falling can always recover, right? But it's very, very difficult to pick apart athletes in this sport. But I just thought Chase would be disappointed in himself more than anything of what happened at Arena Games. And I think from that perspective, it's an athlete who didn't do himself any justice. And I just thought the butterfly thing, I was okay with the treadmill, thing when I was watching him. I wouldn't have really picked that up. But I think the protest doing butterfly, I didn't quite understand what that was until after it. And it's sort of, to me, my takeaway was, well, why would you do that? I couldn't quite grasp it because I'm watching it on TV, hearing you call it, Tim, and it was sort of this protest to say I'm not happy, but it didn't do himself any justice. So he's an amazing guy. Chase, if you're listening, I think you're incredible. I think I'm not telling you anything you don't know. And but I just, my takeaway was, if I was investing in someone and I had to pick a stock today, that's one I wouldn't probably look at. I'd sort of flick by at the moment and look for a better time to buy.
Yeah, I mean, I think afterwards he's been pretty circumspect, and which has been good. Bragmeyer not so much. Has been a little more outspoken when maybe she doesn't have as much reason to do so. But maybe we could have picked Janet instead. But
Chase, I think Chase has the potential to be a world beater.
I agree,
and I think we all agree there. Bragmeyer, I'm not too sure on, right? Like I'm not there with her yet. But Chase has all the ingredients to be the best in the world, right? And that's why it's a stock. It was an athlete I was looking at as a rising stock, and I just think that performance in Arena Games just put a little bit of a cloud over me at the moment. I think he's, as you know, talent is talent, and he'll come back from that and he'll learn from that. And I think, as you said, he's reflected on it. He knows he shouldn't have done it that way, and he'll learn and build. And he may be part of my rising stocks in the next few weeks.
Wow, how quickly things can turn around in the stock market, says the accountant Macca. Tim, let's go on to you. Whose stock is rising for you? Who are you backing? Who are you betting big on at the moment?
Red hot, Beth Potter. 100%. Her stock is so hot right now. I mean, I do think she plateaued 2019. She was obviously in Rio Olympics for track and field. 2019 to 2020 to 21, she was there or thereabouts in the shadow of Georgia Taylor Brown, of Jess Learmoth, even of Sophie Caldwell. But I think the Arena Games last year really changed her, because she never makes the lead pack. She never makes it. And all of a sudden she does these Arena Games and she's getting out the water ahead of athletes that are beating her by 30 seconds to a minute in open water. And I think that's just given her confidence, and it's slowly seeping in. We saw her at the WTS Abu Dhabi this year. She was in total control. She reminded me of the Gwen Jorgensen of old. She was in the lead group. She was on the run, kind of looking around saying, I'm not going to go yet. I'm going to wait till the last lap. She picked her point, Beth Potter Hill. She pushed up it. No one could hang with her. She then came into London. She brought her dog down. She was relaxed. She was calm. She wasn't jittery. And she just executed flawlessly. She swam great. She got on the back of Cassandra Beaugrand, and she ran away from her. She never looked back. I'm really excited to see her. I think this season her stock is just going one way.
I don't think you won't get any argument from the rest of us. What about your stock falling?
Oh, I hate to say this because I really love her. It's Taylor Knibb. Last year she was red hot. She was winning, and everything she was touching, it was gold, whether it was 70.3, PTO, even WTSs. She was an impact player. She was really great, but injury after injury. And one thing you've got to be in this sport is consistent. And I just feel maybe she's a world 70.3 champion. Then she went to the grand final and she fell off the bike there. She didn't run. So I just feel she's doing one thing and she's doing another thing. You don't see Kipchoge or Kelvin doing a marathon and then a 10K. And I feel these athletes, that they're young, they don't have that versatility. She needs to pick long course, middle distance, or short course. And I hope she picks short course for her development. But right now, this time of year, you've got so many good Americans, short course, looking for going to the Olympics. She needs to focus on one thing.
Yeah. Maybe a victim of her own talent. She came on so strong, she felt that she could do anything, and then she tried to do everything, and this is what's happened. All right. Mine are my rising stock, and it's only a young stock. It's only just come onto the stock market. In fact, I don't even know if you're allowed to buy this stock yet. This stock is Fanny Zalai, the 15-year-old with the incredible super run, finished third in Cersei in the Arena Games and then 8th in the London final. And I was doing a bit of, I didn't know anything about her before she turned up at Arena Games, honestly. I don't think anybody really did in the broader triathlon sense, but she started swimming at 4, right? So as a lot of kids do, but she didn't actually join a swim club until she was 10, which seems young, but then you realize she's only 15 now. And then that's when she started running and riding. So she's been training for 4 years, hasn't lost a club race in 3.5 years over triathlon, duathlon, athletics, aquathlon. She just has won everything. She hasn't lost anything. And some of her main goals this year as well, incredible athlete, is to break the under 16 and 18 3K record. So she's got athletics chops as well and goals in that space. She's just won the duathlon national champs. Like, the world is her oyster, I think, after what we saw. She is a unique and special talent at that age to be able to mix it with the quality of athletes that we saw at both of those events. And to do it so calmly at 15 is insane as well. I thought that was incredibly good. Shout out as well to my runner-up, Kat Matthews, at the other end of the scale, who just to come back and do it in Texas and to win the Ironman.
You got 2 stocks, Will. Are these 2 stocks?
2 stocks. I like to hedge. I don't like to put all my.
Oh, okay.
If I got 10, you've got lots of money, right? I have one group of a tiny little bit of money. I need to spread it around. I'm scared. Okay, I don't have the same ballsiness that you do, so I'm going to put some of my money with Fanny as like a long-term blue chip to pay off in 10 years' time at the Olympics, and some right now on Kat to crash in Texas and then come back in Texas and do what she did on the weekend, which I just thought was really, really special. My falling stock, though, is Gwen Jorgensen. And I'm not Gwen Jorgensen the human, because she's insanely good. She's been 6 years out of the sport. She's just come back from having a kid, twice world champion, everything she did, 2016 Olympic gold. But she's leaving it too late to make it to Paris. She's only raced 3 times since she made her comeback. She got 3rd in Taupo. She got 14th in New Plymouth at the World Cup. And then the American Cup, she came 2nd to Katie Zafiris. But she's not doing high enough level races because there just isn't the races. And I think, Macca, you probably understand what it's like to have 18 months and just not be able to find the races to race, and suddenly things get away from you.
Yeah, I tried to do that coming back for London. You don't think about it. You think of the end game. You're like, Olympics, I'll try and do that. And I sort of trying to make 2012. I came in 2011, and you just don't have enough. No matter how good you can win everything, you're still not going to get the points to get there. And it took me. I realised that on that journey. But it's a shame. She can still get there. If she wins a couple of WTS events and still get there, but it's a lot of work.
Can she get on the start lines for WTS events? Like, the next thing she's going to do is the World Cup in Mexico. I don't think she can even get on there.
That's the issue. She can't get on those start lists, and America's so strong.
Katie Zafiris is in a position, and the USAT would always put Katie ahead of Gwen just because she's an Olympic medalist, etc. So she might have left it a little bit too late to come back. But if anyone can do it, I mean, but again, the rate of her improvement is amazing. Taking nothing away from Katie. Katie led out the swim, rode the whole way on her own, and ran away. So she led that race from start to finish. Well, Gwen was in a pack of athletes, but yeah, Gwen needs to do the bigger races, and that's going to be, the depth in USA. Maybe she needs Taylor to be injured more. Taylor Nibb. Then she can get a start. But that's a tough team to make this year.
100%. Well, full credit to Katie and Gwen for coming back to even do a triathlon after having a child. I think we can all agree that we have no idea what that is like, but it'll be incredibly difficult to do. And that wraps us up for Stocks Rising and Falling. We hope, if you were mentioned, that you were on the right side of the ledger and not the wrong side. And now it's time for Social Watch. Okay, in Social Watch, we pick a clip or something that we've seen or heard over the last month, and we discuss it, something that stood out to our guests from the world of social media. And Macca tells me that he doesn't look at social media, which I cannot believe. Macca, is that correct?
I look at little bits of it, snippets of it, snippets of it, but I'm trying to get off the phone as much as I possibly can. I found I saw that screen time thing change my life, and I saw how much screen time.
It's gross, isn't it?
I was like, that's horrible. That's horrible. I've tried to get off it as much as I
saw some stat the other day that said, like, American kids at primary school age watch like 7 hours of television a day. And I'm like, 7 hours they're going to go to school. What are they doing?
Yeah, they're getting that little lump in the back of their spine. It's actually
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
That's why. But I still flick through. I follow you, Will. I follow Tim. You're the only two I look at, and Annie, to see how my training's going.
I'm going to check whether you actually follow me or not. I can't. You haven't double tapped any of my content. I'll have to
Nothing I like, Will. Am I supposed to like it just because it's posted, or do I like?
I need
that?
the engagement,
like
man. Come on, the algorithm's
okay.
punishing me out here. I don't even know what that is, but whatever it is, it's not in my favor. So anyway, we'll start with you, Tim. Something you picked up in your extensive hours and hours and hours of social media each and every day was this.
Hi, I'm Sam Laidlow, professional pole dancer and genius.
I'm leaving that in.
Welcome to Amphi. We're here for the Challenge Gran Canaria. I'm super excited to come back and hopefully not crash on the bike this time. See you out there on Saturday.
We're back in Sam Laidlow land. And I guess that's why. I mean, he's an interesting character, and that's what we like to see. Not many people would say that on social media, Tim.
Yeah, Sam said it, I think, himself before. He's a bit like Marmite. You either love him and hate him. I've actually raced him a couple of years ago in Bolton. And, he is very outspoken, and his father is, and his family are as well. But, the more I'm seeing of him, the more I'm understanding, his unit. And yeah, I've only got respect for him athletically. And I really like Mac has said, he's putting good people around him. His father coaches him. He talks a lot about his family, about his younger brother, about role models, and he does have fun as well. Hopefully, he's not pole dancing, but yeah, no. And he turned up to that race, and he said he didn't feel that great on his swim and on his bike, but he was still there with Aaron Royal, who's a great 70.3 athlete. But then he kind of like took them to the sword on the run, and that's doing that over an Ironman and the modern 70.3 athlete. Those are two different athletes, so they've obviously addressed things that they think they can work on and still add value to his performance, and they're doing it. And he's not changing who he is; he's true to who he is, and he's not afraid to be the outspoken, and he was very much an Uber biker boy with the likes of Camworth and those guys. But now he's becoming an all-round athlete. And I think what he did in Kona wasn't like maybe a flash in the pan, like Bart Arnoux, who podiumed at Kona, and he hasn't really raced very well since then. I think that's only the beginning of what we're going to see of Sam. And I'm warming to him as a person. We've had our run-ins in the past, I will admit that, especially his dad's given me some abuse and words on the run course, on the bike course. But yeah, I've got nothing but I think he's doing a great job at the moment.
All right, from one of the biggest personalities in triathlon to one of the, I guess was going to say, not brand new stars, but pretty close to it, Macca, because you were obviously at the London Marathon. Your one comes from the London Marathon, and it is this moment.
And he's done it, 2:01.26. What a remarkable run. He's broken the course record.
How about Kelvin Kiptum, 23 years of age, coming across the line, looked shocked to be there, but his splits, Macca, were absolutely insane, especially the second half. Just like your London Marathon, just got faster and faster.
Yeah, well, I like to tell myself that I was the one that pushed his second half to that type of performance. But just to see it, he wasn't an athlete I really knew much about. So I found that clip just by investigating post the event after seeing what happened out there. There's a section in that London Marathon where you get to see the leaders coming. I saw Mo Farah and I saw this athlete. I'm like, fuck, mate, it looked like they were in a 5K foot race, And then when you look at that back end, first time ever in a marathon under an hour in the back end of that race. He's 23 years of age, off the back of Kipchoge, that generation. He's the new brigade. He's done 2 or 3 marathons now. He's back ends on both of those marathons, or the 2 marathons, and they're the 2 fastest back ends of marathons in history. He just missed the world record. What a future! And he just watching his interviews and watching that big smile he has post the event, I'm like, wow, it made me curious. And I guess that's what social media is. It made me go out and look for who Kelvin was, and then click and follow. And on his content, I clicked like. You
did?
Because it was good. No, I did.
Classic.
So we'll get yourself back end of marathon. You'll be there.
You need a back end of marathon.
So, to have a look at those splits, though, you're right. 59.47 for the half marathon, the second half marathon that he did after a 1:01, whatever it was. That 5K between 30 and 35K was 13.49. So for the triathletes watching, there are 5K triathletes out there that can run that, but that is insane. And then the 35 to 40 was 14:01, which is 2:48 for a kilometre. The final 10K was 27.56.
It's insane.
So he's 16 seconds outside Kipchoge's record. He smashed Kipchoge's London Marathon record by over a minute, and then he went second fastest. So then does he go to Berlin at the end where Kipchoge set that record last year and smash it and you'll be there too, Macca? You just announced before we recorded that you're going to do another marathon. Can you confirm?
I want to push him to a world record. Considering I pushed into a London record, I figured I may as well go to Berlin. So I'll talk to my agent, talk to his agent, see if we can both get in that course. No, but look, there's a lot of talk about him going there after that London marathon performance. There's all talk on the street here in London about, and he really made an impact here because I think everybody knows who Kipchoge is, and that the whole talk of the town around this marathon is who Kelvin Kiptum is now, 23. And I think if I was him, I'd be looking at trying to grab that record, but don't rush it. You're 23. I'd be going after that Olympics, which is not too far away. And but he knows better than I do. But yeah, he's going to get that record. There's no doubt about it. He did that so easy. The interview, you watch him cross the line. They put the camera. It's like he ran around the block.
You got a touch of the Collin Chartier too about him. Wasn't even puffed.
It was a very positive response.
Rarely on this show is there someone that we can just freely hammer, but Collin is that guy, right? Normally we have to be a bit circumspect. We're like, nah. Colin's made his own bed. We'll just get into it. He did have an interview, Collin, but I wish I'd have done that interview because it would have been different.
That was not an interview. Nah. That was peculiar. He was so like no emotion, no from either the interviewer. I mean, I'm not an interviewer, so I don't know. But I think they're good friends as well, so that must have been hard, maybe. But to announce it, I read to announce that your positive test basically through a podcast, not one of the big media outlets. It was, it all happened so quick, and it's just a situation. But yeah, we need to find more information about the Collin situation, in my opinion.
Collin, come on the show. I will interview you.
Come on, Collin.
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 We'll get Collin. We'll get Kelvin. We'll get everyone. Chase, the whole shebang. Okay, my social watch was, I picked this one up the other day. Something a bit different. I always like to see triathletes, try to act because it doesn't always work out that well, even when you're the GOAT.
Dear ladies and gentlemen, followers, athletes, tribe members, Americans, and Californians. As honorary and not voted for president, I am delighted to announce our new member of the Scrail country, California.
Yes, that was Jan Frodeno as the president of, I don't know, Andorra now, I suppose. The Andorran despot prime minister announcing that his Scrail 100 is turning into a Scrail 50, so it's a gravel triathlon. It's something different, Macca. And you're doing the one in Catalonia this coming, I don't know, August or whenever it is, because apparently you're making a comeback to endurance sports. But it's nice to see something different.
Yeah, no, I watched that. I watched that social media thing. I was out there and I was like, "What is this?" I remember thinking, "Come on, Jan, let's get back to racing, brother." Like I prefer. It's been a long time between drinks, but I love Jan and I love this event. And I committed to it last year when we were in Bahrain together. I follow that Scrail event he puts in Girona. It looks remarkable. It's my cup of tea. It looks like a lot of fun. And so I have committed. And I know the one now going to California, I think is with the old TriStar guys, with George, who used to run Triangle in Ironman back in the day, who does a good job. He did a lot in Spartan. So he's got some good partners. And I just think that there's a future in that style of racing.
Yeah. Well, it makes it fun, right? It's like it's not an unachievable distance. It's long, but it looks like the whole thing is fun, which triathlon's not that fun all the time, Tim.
Oh, absolutely. And I think, it is, and it's a good business decision. Cracking America, California, Big Bear Lake. I think he's onto something there. I think people need that X factor, and I think triathlon is very. Yeah, I think it's very samey, and I think what Super League are doing in Arena Games at one end, I think he's doing at the other end, and I would love to see that series take its time and grow. But the way Jan announced it, I was like, no man, heck, it's like Biden and Trump. Best watch out. He was pretty good in front of the camera. We need a debate, we need him and Sebi. The challenge against the off-road guy. I thought no. Yeah, it was good. And I did like it. Macca, did you like it, that post or not?
I did. Yeah. I did click like. I don't click like on Will's because I'm yet to find anything engaging, Will.
Oh, if you want me to do some terrible acting, I can also do that as well, if you like. I was like, I just wanted it to stop. I was like, Jan, you're a great racer. Let's just stick with that. But I did appreciate that he did it, because he didn't have to do it. So I appreciate that 100%. Speaking of interviews, that wraps us up for Social Watch. But now alongside the new Short Chute Show, Super League Triathlon will be releasing some incredible in-depth interviews in a new series called Face to Face. And the first one was none other than current Ironman world champion and came 5th in London in the Arena Games, Gustav Iden. Here is a little taste of that.
What do you think when you look at everybody else? Because it's so different to what you do and what you give and what you sacrifice.
Yeah, I think I am very comfortable with who I am. And we have also like a team around us. And it's not only me and Christian training together. We have our coach, Olav Alexander, and he is more insane than me and Christian. And then, what me and Christian are. He is so all in, it doesn't make any sense. You would see this guy and you wouldn't understand him at all. He's very, very special. So having this team of crazy people around you that really are all in on something, it's very inspiring. But it's also
sounds addictive.
Yeah, it's addictive, but it's also it is sustainable, kinda. So it's not 100% sustainable. It's not something you can do for forever, You have to piece it up a little bit. So now we have this Paris project, going all in for Paris and take the goal there. But I know that straight out of Paris, it's going to be Kona, it's going to be all of these things. But I try not to think about Kona 2035, I try to think about Paris 2024 and piece it up a little bit, because if I think that I'm going to do exactly what I'm doing for the next 15 years, it's going to be, overwhelming. And I don't think I would handle it. So, sustainable, not really. Fun at the moment,
Yeah, I can confirm that Olav Alexander is crazy, just as Gustav said there, but that's what gets the results. Incredible interview, this one. Watch out for it in a week or two on Super League Triathlon channels. So how good was it, just before we move on? In fact, actually, we'll do it in the next segment. Don't worry about that. It's time to dig in on the triathlon nerd stuff in the breakdown. All right, the breakdown's where we just pick a few topics that we haven't covered yet that we really want to dig into in depth. And the first one for me is Gustav. Let's talk about him, because he's like the opposite of Taylor Knibb at the moment, because he's giving away races and he's concentrating 100% on Paris 2024 and trying to do that. Obviously, he did Arena Games and he did incredibly well, and he just got better and better across the weekend. So he was in the repechage. He only snuck in second place at the back end of the repechage in the run, and then he ended up making it into the final and finishing 5th overall, which I thought was insane. But he's pulled out of Ibiza, which is the big PTO European Open that's on in 10 days or so's time, to focus on Paris 2024, because Yokohama is a week after that. So he needs to get a good result there, because he hasn't really got the results, because he finished 52nd at Abu Dhabi. He was 14th in that European Cup in Cortiera and 5th in the Arena Games in London. Lots of confidence from that, but he's way behind the 8 ball. So is he, A, going to get there, and B, is he making the right decision by foregoing the races? Because Blumenfeld's not. He's going to Ibiza. So, Tim, what do you think about what Gustav's doing and whether he can actually do it? Because he's way behind Blumenfeld and Bettler-Thorn as well.
Well, he can do what he wants, and he's decided that that's the path he wants to go down. If I was him, I'd say right now, the way the short course is moving, his future is in 70.3 PTO Ironman and longer, if I'm honest. But he believes he can be competitive, and I'm sure he's a data-driven athlete with his coaches. They believe too, and he's going all in. And I think if he'd have done Ibiza and then done Yokohama, I think Yokohama would have suffered. So he's putting himself in the best position to have a good stab at, going to Paris. And he obviously believes that. And you know what? As you said, Will, how he raced at the Arena Games, it was impressive. The first day, not so impressive. Lots of schoolboy errors. And he just didn't seem to have that sharpness, but he got sharper and sharper. So he said he's done a good training block now. I think they're in Font-Romeu at high altitude in the French Pyrenees. So I'm excited to see his 100% commitment. And yeah, let's just see where that goes.
Well, let's move on. Let's add on to that, because the other thing I want to touch on that we haven't really talked about is the European Open, because we're going to have that like a pen or like a field of goats. Like we have these goats jumping around. There's Jan, and then there's Christian, and then there's Alistair Brownlee, and there's just all these little goats, right? So Chris, I don't know what a herd of goat is. Is like a flock or like a parliament of goats. I'm not really sure what the goat collective noun is, but Christian is doing this race and then trying to do Yokohama. So I don't know whether that's a good call, but also just the challenge of the goats coming together. Macca, what do you think about that? How's it going to play out?
I can't wait, to be honest. I was disappointed Gustav was going. I'm just going to add a little bit to Tim, because I often question whether the decision to go back to short course is a Gustav decision entirely, because I do think the Norwegians tend to race as a team, and I think he brings a lot to the Christian Blumenfeld group to put Christian back in the racing for Paris. That they tend to do everything together. So it's because I believe he should be staying in that distance.
So hang on. So you think that Iden, like Blumenfeld wanted to do this, and therefore Iden has to go with him. But now Eden's the one who's showing more commitment than Blumenfeld, given that he's going to Ibiza and Eden's not.
I don't think he's showing more commitment. If you look at Christian, forever, this is how he races. He's a racer. He does nothing affects him. Gustav's a little bit more, and they know this with the data. But I just think from training partners, it's built around. It's a group dynamic. It's a team dynamic. That's what makes Norway so powerful. And you've got two amazing athletes as part of it. Don't get me wrong, and add Casper in there as well. But I just think it's whether the decision is entirely his, I don't know. But I get the feeling when you're that good at Ironman racing and longer course racing, and as you said, Tim, and the way that this short course racing is going with the Chase McQueens and these big, powerful swimmers, they are exposed in the swim and they are vulnerable. And if Christian left alone without a Gustav to work with him, could put him out of the Olympics. That's whether I'm right or wrong, I don't know, but that's sort of my takeaway. But getting back to this PTO event, I can't wait, because to have Jan back on a start, it's been a long time between drinks for Jan, and he pulled out of California because he was all about this event. He didn't want to tweak anything. He's ready to rock and roll. Alistair seems ready. He pulled out of his Ironman, didn't want to do anything wrong. So when Alistair's back on a course, he's ready. I think this distance is more Alistair's distance when he's on. If you watch his halves, he tends to, that Nice half he blew up in the, the last part of the run. So the shorter run suits him a little bit better. He's got the big swim. And of course, Christian, this guy is the new age of racing. I just cannot wait to see them compete. And I think the distance is unique. It doesn't suit anyone more than the other. I think Jan is probably a detriment to all of them with his age and hasn't done this distance a lot, but I just can't wait to watch it. It's one event that I'm like, you beauty, settling in, cup of tea, and kicking back and watching this one.
What do you think about this three-time head? This could be the one and only time we see all four Olympic gold medalists since 2008 race together. Maybe, I don't know if Christian's going to end up doing Nice or not, maybe not, but this might be the only time. It's definitely box office stuff.
It is, but I think Christian's going to be on the back foot because Jan's a great swimmer. Alistair's a great swimmer. You throw in Sam Laidlow's a good swimmer. What's his name? Aaron Royal. There are some gun swimmers in there. And if they really light it up, Christian, a bit like Edmonton PTO, Christian might not be in it. And it's a technical course. It's a split transition, quite a complicated course from what I'm understanding, looking at it. So I think Christian will be on the back foot. But, if anyone can do it, it's that he's the in-form athlete, the world 70.3 champion. He got second to Gustav in Edmonton while Alistair was off the front with Sam. And Alistair obviously had stomach issues and Sam wasn't the run pedigree he did show recently. So it's not going to be, it's going to be a race. You got to watch the whole race. It's not going to be, that's how it's going to go. Anything could go. So yeah, I'm really excited to watch it.
And of course, let's not forget wildcard and Super League alumni Cam Worth gets a wildcard and helps mop up all the bikers on the way through the pack again. If he's he's one of the super swimmers as we saw in Malibu. He's basically breaststroking. Chase would have beat him with butterfly. There's a whole bunch. How about the fact though that he did a half marathon on the back of Paris-Roubaix the next day? Like the next day he did a half marathon.
Same day.
Was it same day?
That afternoon. same day. And it was like 4-minute K pace. Oh, he's got an engine. Man, he has got an engine. I just worry, not worry because I don't worry. You know, like if he focused on, I know he's living his best life. I mean, Paris-Roubaix, Kona, he's an impact player, whatever he does. But if he just not focus, but you know, man, I mean, he's legit, man. I'd love to see him go like 4 months building up to an Ironman and race everyone. I think he could podium at Kona. I truly believe that if he does that.
Yeah. I remember speaking to him in the Malibu car park after the race where he got eliminated. So he was plenty good. So we were hanging out in the car park, and he had said that this season he has done a deal with the team, with Ineos or whatever, where he actually is going to get a run up to these races a bit more. So like he was trying to squeeze it, like, you know, he'd jump off and go and do a race and come back again, but they're going to give him more leeway because we had that exact thing. Because I said to him, are you going to regret ever not, you know, just dabbling and never going, what can you do in Ironman? And he said, like, I think I'm going to get more space to do it, but that remains to be seen. But we shall see what kind of form he's in. But obviously, if he can run a 21K off the back of Paris-Roubaix and do it at 4K pace, he's in good form. Pity about the swim, though. Anyway, Tim, there's a couple of other ones that you wanted to hit. Classic, when I sent an email to everyone. Okay, everyone, what's some topics you want to talk about? Macca just comes back and writes PTO, and Tim gives me like 8 different topics because Tim's a nerd. Tim's a huge nerd, right? So Macca's get upset, so he's like, this is what's upsetting me. And Tim goes, how about in Ironman Texas, there was 23 seconds separating the top 3 men. Also, is Christian biting off more than he can chew? Also, Katie's a fierce. Also, Joe Skipper's bike setup. Also, is Johnny still injured? And I'm like, oh, mate, get a hobby.
This is my hobby. Oh, man. It's awesome.
So which one of those many topics do you want to talk about?
Well, there's 2 more. I think Texas. I mean, it was a maiden win for Rudy von Berg. I mean, he's been involved in the sport since he was a kid. His father did Kona in the 80s. He's very prominent within that French-Belgium scene. Rudy represents the USA. It's big winning your first Ironman. I remember my first Ironman win like it was yesterday, and it wasn't. But to win, I mean, I think with less than 5K to go, he was in second, having led for most of it. He got overtaken. And then he had Matthew closing down with a 2:43 run. It literally was 23 seconds, 3 people. They crossed the line. They did not look like Collin Chartier. They did not like Kelvin. They looked absolutely dead. And I just think it was a fantastic race to watch. The big names didn't necessarily turn up. Matt Hansen got hit by an age grouper because it's a 2-lap bike course, and he got taken out. His back was just like red raw from road rash. And obviously there's a whole story with Joe Skipper, as there normally is.
What about Joe's water bottles, though? We've got to mention that. Like, that was a whole scenario. What's going on with that?
It's a fashion faux pas.
He had about 80 on his quicker. And did you notice his tummy? It looked like he had a baby because he'd shoved loads of stuff there. He's filling in all these voids. But there is an Ironman rule, nerd here, that says you cannot have a fairing. It has to be a practical thing. And he did. He had these water bottles here. And yeah, safety-wise, how's he going to get his arms out? But I mean, I did see about 4 weeks ago, he put a post saying, back from the wind tunnel, the most watts I've ever gained. And I was thinking, he's got a good bike. He's got good wheels. He wears fast kit. You know, there's no new product out. How the heck did he get these best gains?
Actually, can I add to that? I want to add to that, Tim, because the takeaway for Rudy, and I agree, that first Ironman win's great. And I've been watching Rudy come along for a while. You know, he grew up in Nice, and that's where the World Championships are going to be. And if you go back to that 70.3 Worlds, he led that event, and he was third overall that day. And to post a performance like that, go back home to race your World Championships, that's a big stepping stone this year. So, and it was off a good run. He ran really, really well. That's a big enough run to potentially, depending on the field, win that race if you can put together a big bike ride in Nice.
Just to quickly go back to short course, is Johnny injured? That's another decent point because he's not racing in Yokohama, and Alex Yee's not racing in Yokohama either. So what's going on there, Tim? You know what's going on.
Yeah, so I saw Alex in the supermarket this week.
He eats? Surely not.
Yeah, he'd just done a hard swim and he was starving, so his trolley was full of all sorts. But he's not injured at all. He was never going to do Yokohama. The federation entered him because you can enter one of your top-ranked athletes and sub in someone else. Johnny, after the ETU Cup, he did have a niggle in his calf, and that's why he pulled out the Arena Games. I hope there's nothing more sinister there. Him and Alistair, I don't know if you'd noticed, Macca might not notice because he's not on social media so much. They have been putting lots of posts on. They've now got someone who actually does that for them. I did notice they put lots of running ones on, and neither of them have put any running ones on lately. So if you're watching, I hope your calf is better, mate, because we want to see you. But then Calgary is 2 weeks after Yokohama, and that's two hard Olympic distances, 14 days apart with hard travel. Maybe Alistair and Johnny are just being sensible, and they don't need to chase points like some of the other athletes. But I hope he's not injured because, I want to see Johnny racing like he did in last year in the Super League.
I have noticed that they've really upped the social media game. That's it's like constant now. Like my whole feed is full of Alistair. Like I'm like, what's going on? Like surely he's got other stuff to do. Now we're getting close to the end of the show. Macca, the breakdown for you and the one thing that you wrote was the PTO and the blowback on them because and then they've released a statement about Collin, but it doesn't really say anything other than we're going to get some legal advice before we decide what we're going to do next. But overall, what's your take on where the PTO sits with all of this?
Yeah, look, it's an athlete-led organisation, right? And I was shocked. I was surprised that, and I'm being nitpicky, right? It's that the Ironman was the one that discovered the positive test. Like, it's an athlete-led organisation. Why aren't the athletes? They're all jumping up and down now on social media. What is the PTO doing? I know what we have to do at Super League with the ITU and lock everything in. Why isn't the PTO catching these athletes? And maybe they are testing. that was my first takeaway. Who did the test? Because anyone who's been through that program, who initiated the test, who did it. And I was shocked to find out it was Ironman, right? Like, it's like, oh, okay, Ironman. We did an Ironman years ago. Like Mont Tremblant was ages ago. He's done a lot of PTO events. He's got a lot of stuff on the cards for this season. So it was that was sort of my blowback. If we're athlete-led organisation, come clean on what we're doing as what's the PTO doing on their drug testing and all the athletes that are jumping up and down. Ask your athlete-led organisation what they're doing to ensure that this doesn't happen again. That was sort of my gripe. Nothing,
Bringing it back to Super League though, like that's part of it. That's part of what we do at Super League, right? So give us some insight because I don't really know because I know that there's drug testing, but it's not part of what I do on race week, obviously, because I'm doing heaps of different drugs. So I don't want to go near the drug testing. But,
Now with the game.
Not really. But so Super League, does that, right?
We don't let you walk past the drug testing potential because it'll light up.
Mate, I don't even drink, man. I don't even drink. Come on, give me a break.
It was what you have to what we do is we work with the World Triathlon and we follow the protocols of that, which means we work with the online system, and we test out of competition, which is it's part of a fund of money that we have to put aside to ensure that our athletes get tested. And I'm sure the PTO is doing that. I was just like, how much are they doing? Come clean. Because I was shocked that it was another organisation that caught him. I may be nitpicking, as I said, but I was like, it was just, it was my first takeaway. The third one.
The problem with the long course athletes is when you're like a Jan Frodeno, a top athlete, you fall under your national federation and you have to do your Adams, which is your once a day, give 1 hour. But the athletes they pick first are always the athletes who are racing the Olympic Games, whether it's track and field, whatever the sport, triathlon. So, in America, when you get good so quickly, he probably wasn't on that he was top 16 in the world at the end of last year, PTO ranking. And I guarantee he is not, I don't think he is on the Adams where every day he has to give 1 hour. When you're top 16 in the world, tennis player, golfer, swimmer, track runner, triathlete, you and PTO are saying this is the world ranking outside of world triathlon, then they need the top 50 athletes to be on 1 hour every day, filling out that Adams form. And they are moving at light speed, and I've got so much respect for that. And you can't see around every corner. But this was probably a red flag that was always going to happen somewhere along the line, because they are injecting so much money into the long distance game.
Don't say injecting. Say injecting.
They are passing the checkbook, the joint, but they're putting so much money into the sport that that they need to really focus on those what if.
Especially someone of his caliber, who's won one of their major events, who is one of their one of their marquee players. It's as you said, and that's you articulated a lot better than I did, Tim. Is when you come through that federation, it's just common nature. You're filling that out since you're a kid, and I always felt that we were always being tested by the federation, and then Ironman did jump on board that, and they did a very, very good job of it. And the PTO is way behind the 8 ball, and they shouldn't be, because they create the world rankings. They're creating the league. They should not be. And that's where I was shocked that it was an Ironman test.
So what's this 1 hour a day thing? I don't really understand. So Tim, can you explain to me, Tim, because you're the most eloquent one that I'm talking to. Yeah, the Adams form, so what, they have to say where they are 1 hour a day? Like what is it?
Yeah, so every day of the year, you have to say for 1 hour you're going to be somewhere, and if you're not there, then it's classed as a missed test. You can alter it now. In the old days, it was a paper chain, but now you can have an app, a text message. So 10 minutes before your 1 hour, you can move it. But again, but they can still turn up outside of that. But if they knock on your door and you're not there, that's fine. But if they knock on your door in that 1 hour and then you're not there, then you do get into trouble. And most athletes some athletes have had missed tests in the past.
Usually put it in the morning or at evening when you know you're going to be home. But as Tim said, that if they turn up and you're not there, you got 3 of them and you're
done. Like if you just nip out the shops, like if you nip down the shops to get some milk and you miss it, like that's it.
Don't nip down in that hour. Don't nip down in that hour.
Can't be longer than an hour. But late in the latter part of my career, I did first thing in the morning, and every night before I went to bed, my alarm would go off, and it would say sometimes you forget, you genuinely forget. That's why you get 3 chances. But again, maybe PTO have that. I wasn't good enough later in my. I wasn't ranked high enough to be part of that, and I've always been on it since I've been an athlete.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I've got to probably caveat some of that by going that, this is probably, as we said, like something that's going to spur the PTO into action. But the PTO they have done so much in such a short period of time to pull all of this together, everything that they've done, that you can see, they're just trying to do, like, they even made a whole bunch of changes just like a week ago about like, we're going to change the distances. We're never going to go over 100K. We're going to change all the money structures. They're doing a little bit like what Super League did, and especially in the first few years where they're like constantly tweaking and changing to make it better. So, I mean, I have no doubt that they're going to do the same thing here. This could be the caveat for that. Unfortunately, this had to happen to make that happen. But, you play what's in front of you, and they're trying to put on all these incredible events one after the other. It's just unfortunate that this has happened, and I blame Collin.
It's not the PTO's fault, that they're operating on that every athlete has the integrity to race fairly as they should and would, and as we have as athletes. So for them, they've been thrown under the bus as much as Collin's sponsors have. If he was negative at the PTO Dallas, I think legally probably doesn't have to give the 100,000 back, but I feel for everyone affected. There's more people affected to this. The ripples are going far and wide across our small pond of triathlon.
Is he the only one? There's got to be more. Is it? Does other people must have known this? Like, first of all, they must have known that's what's happening. He can't be doing that on his own. But also, just like, is he one bad apple in the apple barrel? Like,
naive to think, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Oh, it's sad. Where do I get some though? Seriously. Like, I could use it. I just want to stay awake, like I'm just exhausted all the time. I don't want to train. I just want to have enough energy to get through the day. Like, will that help? I don't know. Anyway, we're going to finish this episode with something called 60-second soapbox. Right, so this is where we give one of our guests 60 seconds to just sound off and go completely nuts on one thing. And we're going to give it to Macca first, even though he spends almost every episode doing exactly that. We're going to give him 60 seconds, free and clear. I'm going to use my watch. I'm going to use the stopwatch. He said to me before the show, right, I'm not going to use up all this time. So what if I only do 30 seconds? Like, do I have to sit here silently for 30 more seconds? I'm like,
I'm just going to channel how long it takes Will to swim 50 meters in a swimming pool. So.
Actually, you've only got 60 seconds, mate. Come on. And you know, I don't know what you're going to say. I do know what you're going to say, but I don't know what you're going to say. But go completely crazy. Here you go. 60 seconds starting now.
Well, we've been talking about him all show, so we may as well end the show with him, Collin. And look, we're always talking about what he did, taking the drugs. But what I want to talk about is the repercussions that has, as we touched on, for all the athletes and the coaches that have been working with him. Lionel Sanders put out an amazing post, and I think he touched the point. It's the decision you make to take drugs is your own decision. It's the wrong one, and you got to live with that now, and it questions everything. But it brings into question mark, you said it just before this episode, who else is doing it? You know, you're seeing a lot of social media posts, all triathletes do it. That's bullshit. Not all triathletes do it. I got to the top without doing it. Tim got to the top without doing it. Everyone's at the top without doing it. But now there's a question mark around Lionel. Was he doing it? Geez, his performance. Was that why he left? Is that why he left Mikel Eden? How did Mikel Eden not know he wasn't doing it? You said it at the start of the show, Will. He's a coach that knows all the blood work, everything. How do you not spot that? So that's the dirty, muggy game of cheating, Collin. That's the people you've let down more than yourself. And I find that repugnant because there's a lot of amazing athletes doing amazing things, and they're improving week in, week out. And to put any dirt or question mark around those performances is annoying to me. And to put any question mark around the Norwegians, because I've spent a lot of time with them. They are as clean as a whistle. They are changing the game in sports science. Bugs me, and it's because of one stupid decision one athlete made. And I'm really shitty about it because I had to sit through and watch. I sat through in our era, Tim, in the early prior to the Sydney Olympics. There was no testing for EPO, and there was a lot of athletes that came along that did amazing shit we used to have to live with and struggle with, and some from Kazakhstan, I won't name names, Dimitri, and others that were just repugnant, cheating athletes that robbed us of our future. And I was in hope that with all the testing nowadays and what was happening in the sports, all endurance sports moving in that direction, we weren't going to see this. There'd be one or two bad eggs, but you know that whenever you bring a question mark over the remarkable performance of athletes in our sport, I get the shits with it. So, come on, Collin. Come on, mate. Shame on you.
2 minutes, 5 seconds. Love it.
And Will touches the wall at the 50.
Hey, I actually broke my PB. I did for 750. I did triathlon on the weekend. 10:50 for 750. That's not so bad for a 90.
That's got to be short.
Hey? No, it wasn't short. I was swimming 135s. I think that's pretty good. Yeah, it was a wetsuit swim. Wetsuit swim in salt water. Anyway, we're going to end it right there. Thank you so much to you, Macca. Thank you, Tim, as well. We're back on every single month. We have different guests on each time. We might have to kick Macca off there because he took an extra minute and 5 seconds, but that's pretty classic from him. Really appreciate it. What's that? I didn't want to wave you, man. You were on. You were swearing. You were getting upset. You were naming names. You were kicking ass. I was like, just go for it. Like, that's all good. So thank you from London, from both of you. Thank you from the UK. Appreciate it. We'll see you at the next one. And not too long now until Super League Triathlon kicks off the Championship Series. There'll be plenty of announcements coming up. And don't forget that big Gustav interview, which is coming up across Super League Triathlon socials. On behalf of Macca, Tim, and myself, that is all for now. We hope you enjoyed your training session when you were listening to this. Wherever you are, we'll be back soon.